When Tracy and John first started dating, they bonded over a love of animals. John was the one that brought it up first, but Tracy told him, "Oh my God, cats, dogs, hamsters, gerbils, give me all of it. I'm an animal person." And of course, that was just one aspect of it. But, when John and Tracy moved in together, he expected that they would have a happy, healthy home and a couple of pets. And that was a conversation when they first started dating. And eventually they marry and they move in together. And things were okay, mostly. But at one point, John and Tracy decided that they wanted to move to Chicago. So John, being very busy with his job, he asked Tracy, "Hey, can you coordinate the transportation of the pets to Chicago?" And Tracy's like, "Duh, of course, absolutely." But a few days later, she calls John with a very strange story. She says, "Hey, oh my God, this is terrible. The pet company was actually a scam and they stole our pets. They came to pick them up and they were supposed to send them to Chicago, but they didn't. They stole the pets. I can't believe this. This is horrible. I don't know where the pets are. Also, John, how much is your life insurance policy for? I think we should up it." Welcome back. It's another week. It's another Sinister. I'm your host, BOZE. I'm here with you every Friday, unless I'm gone because I'm sick. That's right, everyone. I told you I was retired from being mentally ill a few months ago, and I was wrong. I'm back in the workforce. Also, if you're listening on Spotify, hello. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. My YouTube watchers, I want you to know sometimes when I'm filming, I turn my light out. I know it's like a little dark in here. I get very overstimulated by light sometimes, especially when the room is dark. So sometimes I'm like, dude, fuck this. I'm turning the lights out. So that's where we're at right now. If you're new here, I'm BOZE. Sinister is a show about female killers. I also do some body cam videos. I have a podcast where I talk about non-true crime stuff. And we also do live streams on Mondays where we watch through court cases and various things. So if you are a true crime fan, there's lots to do here. Tracey Richter was born May 5th, 1966 to Bernard Richter Jr. and Anna Richter. Anna Richter is a very interesting character. We'll come back to her at the end. One thing that was really interesting is Tracy Richter's dad was a homicide detective. What an incredibly rare job. I mean, how often do you meet a homicide detective? And considering where we're going with this case, I just thought that was strange. But Tracy was an incredibly intelligent child. Now, I know in cases all the time where like, oh, they were studious or they were smart or they were something, I really want to drill in here. Over the course of her life, I'm going to explain to you a few times where her intelligence comes up, but from a very young age, it was deeply ingrained in Tracey Richter. You are smart. You are bright. This will be your identity. This will be your ego. You will draw your ego and your power from being smart. Her mom later said, quote, "At the time, she got one of the highest SAT scores, I'm pretty sure, in the whole United States." You will hear more things like this, but from a young age, Tracy is being praised by her mom for being so smart and also being compared to other children about how smart she is. I just really want to emphasize, like, she is going to begin to draw her ego from her intellect. And if somebody challenges her intelligence or if somebody is smarter than her, it's probably going to make her feel a certain type of way. And also, I mentioned before she went to this college prep school. It was called Mother Theodore Guerin College Preparatory School in River Grove. It was an all-girls private Catholic school. So Tracy, in her high school age, is surrounded by all these other women and being told, you're the smartest, you're the brightest. Not only did you get the strongest SAT scores in this entire school, but you actually did it in the entire country, which, by the way, was that actually true? You know, they are just gassing this girl up. Tracy's intellect wasn't just like book smarts or academics. You know, sometimes I talk about how kids that can come from really tumultuous homes will really, really excel in school because it's the first time they have any structure and they like the structure. So they just get these just banger grades. Tracy wasn't getting like the craziest grades. I mean, she actually did go to a college prep school while she was still in high school. But she was doing okay. It was that she was that type of like street smart person. She was charming. She was intellectual. You knew you were talking to a bright girl. Look, y'all already know who my favorite sponsor is. It's ZocDoc, okay? I'm not getting any younger. And neither are you. Listen, it's time for us to check in and care about our health. Our bodies are fragile. And you know what? So is my mind, which means I hate sitting on the phone trying to get an appointment. You know, whether you're going to a new doctor or whether you need an appointment in the next couple of days because something serious is happening, or maybe you need a prescription refill, it is so annoying that the system hasn't changed for years, right? It's go online, go through your insurance, find somebody that takes your insurance, call them up. Hey, do you have any appointments? Hold on, let me put you on hold. Did they even answer the phone? God only knows. But listen, on ZocDoc, all you have to do, I mean, like, it's actually crazy. All you have to do is go to the website or go to the app, put in your zip code, put in your insurance, put in what type of treatment you're looking for, and then boom, a huge list of 5-star doctors all in your area are listed right in front of you. And hold on, that's not the best part. It also lists all of their availability and times right below. So you can see all of their reviews, their address, the insurance they take, and also their next available appointment, which could be in 48 or 72 hours, and you can book it right there. It's crazy. Guys, ZocDoc is changing the game. And guess what? It's free. I found my new dermatologist through ZocDoc. I found my new primary care physician through ZocDoc. Man, I'm about to schedule a dentist appointment through ZocDoc. I don't stop. I advocate super hard for this app because I have gone to more doctor's appointments in the past year than I have probably in the last 10 because they make it so easy. Stop putting out doctor's appointments or looking for a new primary care physician. Just go to ZocDoc.com/sinister. And look, I told you, it's free, but help us out and let them know where you came from. Go to ZocDoc.com/sinister. And in the very least, check out how easy it is to book an appointment. And then when Tracy grows up, honestly, I could only describe this woman as tall, dark, and handsome. She's got she kind of takes on, you guys know that trend on TikTok that's like the office siren look? That's what Tracy looks like. She's got this like long, wavy kind of like luscious hair she kind of plays with. She wears these little tiny glasses. She's always looking at you like she's wearing a mini skirt. Like, that is Tracy's energy. Do I want to call her murderer a vixen? No, but she was putting on vixen energy. Like, if she picked a Tumblr aesthetic, hers would be office siren. Hers would be vixen. This is who she thought she was. Like, to guys, Tracy's hot. Okay? Once again, I always like to remind you guys, I'm just here to set the scene, okay? When guys met Tracy, they were like, oh, I need a piece of that. I gotta find out what is up with that because that is weird, complicated, strange, and rare, and I want that. And Tracy knew this. She knew it. I mean, she was really milking this look for all she could. We have aesthetically hot, and then we also have smart. Smash them together. She's in college now for radiology. You know, I've gone through a lot of SINISTER cases before, and I can honestly say Tracy probably looks the best on paper. And I point this out because I say all the time, guys, if I was super pretty, super smart, super rich, married to some hot guy, doing well, happy kids, happy home, happy life, I would just shut the hell up. I would just shut up and stay at home and, I don't know, not kill anybody. So it's just always very shocking to me when some people are so set up and they are entitled to more in life. Anyways, so she's at Northwestern University in Chicago, and this is when she meets her future husband, John Pittman, soon to be Dr. John Pittman. John was a fourth-year medical student, and he was instantly attracted to Tracy. He actually later said on the stand, quote, "She had an ability to read people that I hadn't really ever encountered before. She also had a way of knowing what you wanted to hear or was very interested in. At times, she seemed almost too perfect, and she has a very high IQ of about 145 or 150. She's very bright. Very perceptive." First of all, John, was this not a red flag? Quote, she had the ability to read people. She had a way of knowing what you wanted. She seemed almost too perfect. And she had a very high IQ of 145 to 150. I mean, John, did you test that? Probably not. Tracey probably told him that. I just also want to point out the caliber of person that goes on some early dates and says, well, I have an IQ of 145. And if you're like, BOZE, why did you just do that accent? Girl, just wait, okay? Just wait. But yeah, she was out here on these dates like, yes, I have the highest SAT scores and my IQ. And John was like, wow. Like he's getting hit with every Cupid arrow. And look, she was laying it on thick. She was a rare, smart, beautiful woman. He was all in. They married in 1987. And get this, Tracey was only 19 years old. And then in 1989, they decide to move to Colorado. Remember, John likes nature, he likes animals, and Tracey's like, oh yeah, me too. So they decide to give Colorado a try. But at this point, John is in his residency and man is working hard. He is working 120-hour weeks. Now, those are medical shifts, so they're kind of like long stretches of time, and then he gets some longer periods of time off. Maybe, actually. I actually don't know how the doctor's schedules works. I mean, I know my friends that are nurses. They don't have no time off. Y'all got 48-hour shifts and then 12-hour days off. It's crazy. But John had to be at the hospital 120 hours a week. Remember, Tracey is young. She is freshly 21 by this point. Also, reminder, I'm not gassing Tracey up here. I am not a Tracey fan. I am setting the scene and letting you know what the vibe is. Because if I sit here and just rag on her the whole time when I'm telling the beginning part of the story, it won't make any sense. And the reality is, John Pittman had married a 21-year-old, newly 21, can drink now, hot, smart girl who was at home and not working. She is smart, she wants attention from men, and she's not doing anything at home. While John is at the hospital, Tracey is not sitting there with her hands in her lap just waiting for him to come home. She's gonna look for something that makes her feel alive. Because I can guarantee you, the rush of dating a doctor right after you get out of college and she's locked one down, then turns into the reality of sitting at home by yourself several days a week alone. She starts picking fights with John nonstop. I'm gonna insert a little of my opinion here. Take this with a grain of salt, but when I look back at Tracey's past and I see that she was often intellectually compared to other women and told, because she went to an all-girls prep school, she was told she was the smartest girl in the school, the highest SAT scores, you're the smartest woman here. Well, she draws her ego from her intellect, and now her husband is a man that's a doctor, and he's working really hard and making all this money, so he must be smart. And so for Tracey, this might present as a challenge to her intellect. Her husband might be a threat to what she thinks about her intelligence, because why is he the working doctor that's working so hard and she's just at home? In my opinion, I think that Tracey mentally began to compete with her husband because now this is a man that is smarter than her. And if she can be better than him, then whatever, right? That's how our silly, goofy children's brains work sometimes. Like things don't make sense. So to support my theory, not saying it's entirely right, I give you guys bits of information, I sprinkle in a little of what I think, but the whole point of this show is I want to know why people did it and what traits to look out for in circles of people that you know, okay? That's why I do this. So Tracey starts to pick fights with John all the time. And also, she starts to spend all of his money. I mean, she is running up the credit cards. I don't think that Tracey was just running up the credit cards because she liked a lavish life. Like, I mean, she did like status. She did like prestige. I think that she was mad at John because he was doing well, and I think that it intimidated her, and I think she just wanted to spend his money. She also started having violent outbursts. It's also interesting because Tracey did not really have any type of documented history of violence. Now, of course, we all roll our eyes in a courtroom when some attorney says some 15-year-old has no history of violence and they shouldn't be charged. But Tracey didn't really even have any history of striking people or, getting physically out of control. It's almost as though her anger escalated into violence instead of it being some kind of echo from her past or learned behavior. So she's going from picking fights to putting them in extreme debt to having violent outbursts to now hitting John. When somebody's escalating like this and showing patterns of behavior that they've never had before, it has to be terrifying because it's like, where is this going? Well, guess where it's going? One day, Tracey starts waving a gun in John's face. Not pointing it directly at him, but almost taunting him with it. And this is when John's like, okay, this has gone too far. I need to leave. As soon as John starts getting cold feet, Tracey panics because even though she's treating him like crap, like he's the source of everything in her life. The money, the stimulation, she's complaining about stuff every single day and he has to answer to it. Like, she doesn't want him to go. And so she's, John, wait, no, don't go, don't. Let's work things out. Let's go back to Chicago. So she convinces John that they should go back to their old college town, leave Colorado, get away from the hospital he's at, go back home, start over. And John thinks this is a good idea. I mean, look, sometimes you do need a new beginning in a relationship, and this would kind of get them a little bit closer to their origins, and he thought that maybe they could have a clean slate. So they decide to move back to Chicago and work things out. How can you even market your business in 2024 without a website? I mean, seriously, the first thing I do when I hear of a new company or brand is I Google it. So you know what that means? You're not only going to need a website, but you're also going to need a little bit of SEO optimization. That's search engine optimization. That's how people find your website. And guess what? Squarespace has it all. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for entrepreneurs or artists or whoever wants to share their work or business to get started on. It's super, super simple, and you can have a website up within minutes. I mean it because I've done it myself before. It's actually crazy. You would think starting a web page is difficult, all the coding and the aesthetics and, filling out all the text. I mean, there's so many blocks of text and images and da-da-da. It can be really overwhelming. Well, what I like about Squarespace is it takes everything step by step. So maybe you want to start a business, but you're overwhelmed by building the website or you don't know where to start. Well, start with Squarespace. If anything, it is just so fun actually designing a website. I'm somebody that has no aesthetic awareness and no spatial awareness. Hey, listen, guys, at all times, I have no idea what's going on, okay? And I had so much fun building out the website. They give you these beautiful, pre-made templates, and they are so easy to customize. It's click, change, click, change, click, change. There's suggestions. I mean, there's everything that you need. I think what I like the most about it is not only is it easy, not only is it affordable, but it takes the stress out of building something that you may not know how to do. And look, if you already need a website, we'll make it just a little bit sweeter, and you can get 10% off of your website sign up or domain if you use my code. That's squarespace.com/sinister. Look, if you need an annual registration for a domain, 10% ain't nothing to scoff at. Make sure you use the code. It's squarespace.com/sinister. So one of the first things that John asks Tracey to do when they're moving across the country is to take care of the pets. Remember, I said he's working long hours, long weeks, and he just needs her to organize the transportation of the animals back to Chicago. They're coming all the way from Colorado, so they're not driving. They're going to fly, and they need to get the pets over there. And Tracey's like, okay, got it. So she gets the service set up, and they pick up the animals. Supposedly, John's at work. Tracey can tell John anything, and he's not home to see anything. But according to Tracey, they came and they picked up the pets. The next day, she calls him. And what's interesting is John said that her explanation for such a tragic situation was very short and just kind of on to the next item on the list, right? She called him and she said, John, oh my goodness, the pet company that I hired was a scam. I can't believe it. This is awful. They've taken our pets. And John is like, what? And Tracey's like, yes, they kidnapped our pets. John is like, well, did you call the police? And she's like, they're gone. The pets are gone. I don't know what's happened. I'm like, yes, this is Tracy's story. She said that this animal company that was supposed to ship the pets kidnapped the pets, and now she can't get a hold of them. To me, this doesn't really make any sense. These were not particularly rare animals. They were house animals that John Pittman really loved and Tracy never paid any attention to. There is no reason why this company would steal these animals and then just go rogue. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And John knows this. But then, on the same exact call, Tracy talks to John and she kind of tries to roll it under the guise of them, like, setting up their new life in Chicago. She asked him how much his life insurance policy was for. Like, she was saying that they should increase his life insurance. And look, this man is a doctor that works at the hospital. His life insurance is already pretty good. And then also, if he's spending 120 hours a week at the hospital, if something happened to him, most likely he's already going to be at the hospital. So that's a life insurance plan right there. I don't know why we need to take out a $5 million policy on him. And John thought the same thing. He thought that this entire phone call was weird. So right after this, he decides to hire a private investigator. So when John hires this private investigator, they want to get the lay of the land. And he starts asking John some questions like, how'd you guys meet? What was your relationship like? What has the past year been like? And what made you call me today? And the PI tells him almost immediately, there's something not quite right with someone who carelessly gets rid of family pets. John, in his head, he's like almost projecting what he would or wouldn't do onto Tracy, and he can't even fathom that she's lying about this, that she would do something about it. And to the PI, he's like, oh, fuck this bitch. Like, she got rid of those pets, and something's not right about that. And then John keeps talking, and he mentions the rest of the phone call and the life insurance. And the PI's like, whoa. And he's like, what? And the PI said, tell me more about the life insurance. John tells him, and he even tells the PI he didn't understand why at the time, or, why would she ask this? And the guy looks at John and he tells him, you really need to hire somebody because your life is in danger. John takes him seriously. I mean, he called the PI for a reason, and off he goes to trail Tracey Richter. Right away, he finds out Tracy's spending time with other men. A lot of time with other men. John is on overnight shifts. She can pretend to be single. She can go to anybody's house. She can invite people over to her, and the husband is not home. He even said that some days she would spend time with multiple men in one day. And the PI also told John Pittman that these types of guys didn't seem like anyone John Pittman would want to get tangled up with. They were real seedy guys. So Tracy's living her double life. She's got her successful doctor husband while she's got her little tiny glasses on, and she's and then on the other side, she's hanging out with these like seedy drug dealer guys, like hooking up, cheating on her husband. She just went full double life because she was bored. Now the PI is probably reporting some of these things to John, but he still has to kind of act like everything's normal with Tracy. I mean, it is. They still live together. He also is kind of trying to see, should I trust this person? Should I move back to Chicago with them? Well, one day, Tracy gives him a call, and she's like, hey, John, I need you. Can you meet me at the apartment? And he's like, is it important? She says, yes, it's very important. And so he's like, okay, I'll be there. Right after he gets off of the phone with Tracy, he then gets a call from the private investigator. And he says, did you just get off the phone with Tracy? And he was like, yeah, she wants me to go to the apartment. The PI said, okay, well, I'm trailing Tracy right now, and your apartment is to the east, and I'm watching Tracy go west right now. Do not go to that apartment because Tracy is not going to be there. They hang up the phone. A few minutes later, Tracy calls John again, and he answers. And she said, where are you? I'm waiting for you. Are you coming to the apartment? John did not go to the apartment that day. And in 1992, he decided to leave Tracy for good. And as he should. Tracey tried to reconcile with John Pittman to no avail. She had done it once before, and this time all of her requests were falling on deaf ears. John was not interested in reconciling, but now, after several years of marriage, they finally had a child, and John wanted to see his son. Now, this was in 92, and it is a full-on divorce and custody battle that rages on for several years. The divorce was finalized in 1996, but the custody battle was not going away anytime soon. During all of this, Tracey needs her attention. And of course, she's got her seedy dudes that she's hanging out with, hooking up with, doing whatever on the side. But now that John Pittman is out of the picture, she needs her trophy husband. She needs her double life. She needs her prestigious, educated, husband so that she can kind of play off of that because that's the identity that she likes. When her divorce gets settled, she meets a man online on a Christian dating site. He's an Australian entrepreneur named Michael Roberts. And one of the first things that she told Michael, literally online, this is why I said I know Tracey be talking about her intelligence. She actually said this to him. She said, "Well, I used to be a model, so you won't be disappointed." Bitch, on a Christian dating site, okay? Stuff like that. Like, that was an actual message she sent. This is why I could see her sitting at dinner with John Pittman being like, "Well, my IQ's 155 last I checked." But back to Michael. So Michael was a computer security expert. He was good looking. You know, he had the blue eyes. He was confident. He was well off. He had the accent. Oh, everything Tracey loves. And Michael also fell for Tracey Richter's charm. I mean, when she wanted to turn it on, she really could. He literally described her as beautiful, articulate, and engaging. People said that they were a striking couple. Once again, another thing I think Tracey really liked, the prestige. And they had a quick romance. So much so that they got married 18 days after they met. Yep. The divorce was finalized in 96. She gets on the dating website, flies out to meet Michael, and they are married, not just engaged, within 18 days. After that, Michael is so sprung that he moves out to Chicago to be with Tracey and her kids. And also, using his passion, his money, his confidence, he is protecting his beautiful wife, Tracey Richter, from her evil ex, Dr. John Pittman. Tracey said that Dr. John Pittman has gone on a harassment campaign against her. He has done all of these horrible things, tried to take her child, and on top of that, she says he's a pedophile. Michael is so in shock that his poor, smart, engaging, funny, charming, witty, beautiful wife has gone through all of this with this evil ex-husband, and he vows to do anything and everything he can to make sure Dr. John Pittman never, ever hurts Tracey Richter again. Now, of course, none of this was true. It was not true. In fact, her depiction of John made Michael come right up beside Tracey and choose to fight this battle with her. Later, when it was revealed to him that Dr. John Pittman was not the monster that Tracey claimed, he actually said, quote, "She said he was a narcissist and only cared about money, power, and prestige. I believed her, and I adopted the battle as my own, using my time, my emotions, my money, and my resources. I put a hedge around my family to protect them from this monster, Dr. Pittman." The custody battle was contentious, and with this newfound source of money and confidence from her new husband, Tracey dug her nails in a little bit deeper. One day, John came out of the hospital and there was a poster on the wall, and it was of him, and it said pedophile. That's right. Tracey had gone around the hospital where he worked and put these posters up saying that he was a pedophile. Of course, John knows exactly who is responsible for these posters, but unfortunately, the hundreds of people going in and out of the hospital every day don't. So anyone that caught a glimpse of this poster felt like John had something to answer to, which is just really upsetting and terrifying, considering he had a good job, he worked around elderly people, kids, whatever, and also Tracey was claiming that he molested his own 3-year-old child. I mean, It's a horrible accusation, and it's hard to disprove something that never happened in the first place. So John has no choice but to kind of keep his head down and hope that they can resolve this legally. But then in December of 2001, something strange happens. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened December 13th, 2001, through Tracy's perspective. On the night of December 13th, 2001, two intruders broke into Tracey Richter's house when she was with her children. Michael, her husband, was away on business, and they broke in around 7 o'clock. At the time, Tracey had been giving her daughter Mason a bath, and she heard two people downstairs. And immediately she knows, well, my husband is not here. My husband is out of town. So she grabs her kids and goes in the room. Tracey is able to shuffle her kids into the room almost heroically. But then there's a moment where one of them grabs her and pulls her back. Now, her kids, by Tracey's account, are fairly safe. She has secured their safety. But now, the intruders had a hold of her. Tracey said the intruders pulled her down the stairs, and when they got her to the bottom, they started to choke her until she lost consciousness. And then, when she regained consciousness, she went and got her gun, and she shot one of the intruders several times. The other one was so scared that he ran off. After the second man fled, Tracey went upstairs to make sure that her children, who she had saved, were all right. She gathered them. And then she came back downstairs to see the guy is still moving. She tells her son Bert to call 911. And then she shoots him a few more times just to make sure that he's dead. This town that they moved to was home to less than 1,000 people. It was very tiny. They also lived in a lavish house. It was a 2-story colonial blue house, 2,800 square feet, 5-bedroom. It was Victorian style with a little sunroom, floor-to-ceiling windows, and it had views of this like wildlife preserve. Now, I'm giving you all these details so you know this is a small town. These police have probably never really dealt with a murder investigation before. This is a thing that happens in some counties where if there's nobody being murdered, then the police don't get any training on how to properly investigate something. They don't know how. Not only is this a police department that probably should be calling another larger precinct, but Tracey and her husband lived in one of the most beautiful homes that the entire city had to offer. These must be upstanding citizens. So the police kind of go in with some preconceived notions about who Tracey might be. And then she shows up confident, smart, intellectual, and now a hero. She just shot 2 intruders. Well, here's where things start to get odd. When the police get there, they find out that the intruder that Tracey has shot is her neighbor. It's a guy named Dustin. Dustin Weddy was a 20-year-old boy that lived next door. Now, yes, he is 20, but this guy, they said that he was very socially underdeveloped. Like I said, it was a small town, but Dustin was somebody who was undiagnosed and not helped from A to Z. Not only did he have some type of like learning or social disability that wasn't diagnosed because nobody was helping him, he also had a lot of mental health issues because he had some behavioral problems, which might have been tied to the other disability. And he also had some substance abuse issues because people thought he was trying to numb something out. But Dustin didn't really get any help. He was kind of just on his own. He didn't have any friends, really, but he liked paintball, video games, music, kind of just the regular stuff. Now, Michael, Tracey's husband, who lived next door, he felt really bad for Dustin, and he actually even tried to kind of take him under his wing. And this is strange, too. Dustin's mom, a lady named Mona, she was very close to Tracey and Michael, very close to her neighbors, so much so that Mona had sold them their home in Iowa. Like, they were so close that they made an off-market house sale to each other. They knew each other very well. They were neighbors, saw each other every day. They're doing business deals together. Michael is hanging out with their son. Like, they're close. Why did he just break into Tracey's home? And why did Tracey shoot him? I mean, Didn't she recognize Dustin? Of course she did. But that's not how she's retelling the story. As she's telling the officers this story, it's that Dustin is just an intruder. So Mona is very shocked by her version of events. Michael is confused, but the bottom line is right now, Tracey is a hero because in everyone's eyes, she has just saved her children from this neighborhood maniac and who knows what he could have wanted. They used Dustin's disability to make him a little more mysterious and capable of anything, when in reality, this situation just didn't add up from the beginning. Another thing is, while the police are talking to Tracey, she's not talking about Dustin. She's not emotionally distressed. She's not talking about the kids. She's actually talking about her ex-husband, John Pittman. And she's talking a lot about her ex-husband. The police are trying to get information about Dustin, but all Tracey keeps bringing up is, that Pittman. Oh, Dr. Pittman. She tells the police he was abusive. He was abusing her child, that they were in this custody battle that he just wouldn't give up. And the officer's just kind of wondering, why are you talking about your husband right now? I mean, guys, the signs were all there for everybody. Like, everybody knew this situation was weird, but it was hard to contest Tracey's story. Have you guys ever been in a situation before where somebody tells an insane story and you feel like they might not be telling the truth, but the story makes them a victim and you don't want to contest that? So you're just like, okay, like if you say so. And so that's kind of the behavior that everybody close that had all the details had. They believed her. That means that they also believed that there was a second intruder. They even put out a bounty for $10,000 for anyone that gave information that led to the capturing of the second shooter. Also, don't forget, guys, we're in a small town. The police have to catch this person. Otherwise, everybody's going to be scared. But the case goes cold. They never find the extra intruder. Nothing happens to Tracey. It's all self-defense, and everyone moves on. Except for Tracey Richter, because this week she's on the Montel Williams show. I cannot believe I'm saying that. Yes, Tracey actually was featured on a daytime television talk show as a heroic mother. Now, if you didn't grow up in, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, when these talk shows were very popular, like, Maury Povich or Steve Wilkos or Montel Williams. Usually the way this works is there's a moment in the show where they say, if you know somebody that owns a horse and hasn't taken them to the stable for over 10,000 days, call us. Like, they will give a prompt for the show that they're producing, like baked into the show, because that's how they scout people. Tracey getting on the Montel Williams show means one of two things. It means one, maybe a producer on the show saw an article about this heroic mom that killed an intruder that wanted to hurt her kids. Or two, it means there was some prompt that applied to Tracey's case and she submitted herself for the Montel Williams show. There's a lot of fascinating stories that circulate in the news all the time, but personally, I think that Tracey may have submitted herself to this. She does love the prestige. And when all of the press and popularity died off in her hometown, what better way than to continue to put yourself up on a pedestal than to apply to this daytime talk show to talk about what you did? While Tracey is soaking all of this up, the police are investigating Michael. They are wondering if he might have something to do with the murder. Like I said, there were things at the scene that didn't really make sense, but they didn't push Tracey for some reason. They just started digging around other corners. And there was no doubt that Tracey murdered Dustin. No doubt at all. But the why didn't make sense. Now, while they were investigating Michael for this, some interesting things came up, actually. Bert, Tracey's son from her first marriage with Dr. John Pittman, claimed that Michael had been physically abusive and broke his nose after not cleaning horse manure with his bare hands. And they also found out out in December of 2000, just about 2 years before this all happened, Michael had been arrested that night after an argument with Tracy, and the police were called to the house. Now, this is all they found about Michael, but it was enough to really start asking him some questions and start pushing him to see if he was involved in Dustin's murder. And this is when Michael realizes that Tracy's telling the police that he's the angry one in the relationship, that he has all these emotional problems, that he's doing X, Y, and Z. But as the police are questioning Michael about his behaviors, he kind of starts to realize, like, no. These are Tracy's behaviors. Like, this is what Tracy does. And he starts to push back, and he denies that he's the angry one. He's like, I'm not the angry one. Tracy's always the angry one. I'm the one that's always trying to calm her down. He even tells the investigators that their relationship had been on the rocks well before Dustin's death, unlike what Tracy said. She claimed that everything was fine right up until the murders. Now, the police also thought it was interesting that Bert, Tracy's son, only had one instance of violence or issues with Michael. He didn't have any other stories, so they suspect he might have actually been coaxed to tell this story to officers. At first, through it all, Michael really tried to stand with Tracy through everything. He really wanted to stand with his hero wife. Oh my God, she protected the kids, da-da-da-da. But in 2004, their issues caught up, and Michael decided, we got to get a divorce. And just like that, Tracy's second marriage was going up in flames. And now Tracy is depressed, upset. Her wonderful husband, Michael, that she loved so much, has left her. She doesn't know what to do. And, she just patiently I'm just kidding. Do you know what Tracy did? She made a website called Deadbeat Dad, okay? It was called Deadbeat Dad, and it alleged that Michael, Tracy's ex-husband, now ex-husband, was actually the second intruder. This website claims that it was Dustin, the neighbor, and Michael, who was pretending to be away on business, that broke in and they tried to hurt Tracy. Bitch, this story is so fucking stupid. This is so stupid. At this point, I'm not buying that Tracy had 150 IQ. I'm putting that in the garbage because this is some of the stupidest shit that I've ever heard of in my entire life. She became a 2004 cyberbully. We were barely online, Tracy. She went from putting up slanderous posters in the hospital to, let me do you one bigger. She was buying domains in 2004. The minute that Michael wises up to Tracy's antics, she tries to pin this whole thing on him. She tries to say that he was involved in some way and he's a deadbeat dad. This is a lie that comes through the lens of somebody's grandiosity, and they see themselves as amazing, heroic, fantastic. And so this lie makes total sense to them. It doesn't make sense to anybody else. It's crazy. So much so that Mona, Dustin's grieving mother, is like really putting the pieces together. And she's like, wait, Dustin did not have a gun or a knife. And also on this day, he was parked right outside of Tracy's house. Why would he park outside of somebody's house for a 7 p.m. home invasion? And while Tracy is basking in the glory of her being a hero and everyone is bad except her, Dustin's family is falling apart. After Dustin was killed by Tracy, Brett, his father, and Mona, his mom, got a divorce. After they divorced, Mona couldn't handle it and she left with the kids. And Brett stayed in the house, and the letters that he wrote said that he cried every day. When a child dies, some couples don't recover. There are no words that I can say that could even remotely express what a family goes through when they lose a child. A year and 2 weeks after Dustin's murder, Brett, who was alone all the time in the house, decided to go visit his son. He visited him on the anniversary. He visited him for days after that. Dustin, even though he was buried, it was all Brett had. And he kept going back to his son's gravesite. And eventually, on November 28th, 2002, he wrapped his arms around his son's grave and he put a gun to his head and he pulled the trigger. He couldn't take it anymore. He had lost everything. And Tracy was on the Montel Williams show. Tracy, for reference, Tracy appeared on that show October 2002, and Brett killed himself November 2002. Tracy got airtime on national television for murdering Brett's child. In 2008, a man named Special Agent Trent was assigned to look at the case once again. And this guy wasn't drinking any of Tracy's bullshit. He noticed something immediately. Dustin was shot execution style in the back of the head. It didn't match up with Tracy's account, and it definitely didn't match up to self-defense. His skull had multiple bullet entry wounds, which means somebody shot him multiple times execution style before he flipped over and he was shot on the front. Trent knows this is not self-defense. There's no way. And he's not going to let go of this until he finds out what actually happened. The first thing he does is interview Tracy. And, Tracy doesn't strike me as the type of person that is always looking over her shoulder, wondering when the cops are going to come knocking. Sometimes people kill people, and then that's what they do. I think Tracy's the type of person that really felt like she got away with it. So I cannot imagine her dismay when Special Agent Trent comes knocking. He brings her in to interrogate her, and she plays it pretty cool. She doesn't give him many answers, and she even says, "Oh, I was really loopy when they interviewed me then. I was loopy. I don't know. They gave me something. I was loopy. I don't remember." And she's just giving him nothing, really. But he picks up a little bit on her demeanor. And listen, when you're an investigator, you know manipulative people when you see them. Shit, even y'all know manipulative people when you see them. And sometimes you walk up like a moth to the flame, don't you? Now, Trent's suspicions later get confirmed because he goes to interview poor Dr. John Pittman. I mean, he really escaped a monster. And then Michael, who is now divorced from Tracy and in a custody battle with her. Both of them described Tracy as angry, mean, and manipulative. Now, obviously, Tracy doesn't hear these interrogations directly, but now that Special Agent Trent is knocking on her door, she knows something's coming. So she applies for a new driver's license and tries to change her name. Are you ready for the name that Tracey Richter picked? She changed her name to Sophie Corinna Therese Baronin von Richterhausen Edwards. I'm sorry, let me just read that to you again. She changed her full name to Sophie Corinna Therese Baron von Richterhaus Edwards. What is this? England in the 1200s when everybody daddy got ownership over you with their last name? No, nobody has this many fucking names, Tracy. You know what? Your IQ just dropped to a 105. This is somebody that probably was very smart when they were younger, but now they've been smelling their own shit for so many years that they're dumb, okay? So Trent has been looking into the case for a while, but then also in 2011, a couple years later, the county gets a new prosecutor, and it's a guy named Ben Smith. And on his first day, Special Agent Trent, who could only get so far in the 3 years that he was working on the case, he comes into Ben's office to welcome him, say, nice to meet you, I'm Special Agent Trent. They chat a little, exchange some pleasantries, and on Trent's way out, he says, "By the way, I want to tell you about this one case." And he drops a little bit of information about Dustin's case. You and I both know that if somebody is actually shooting someone in self-defense, they are not shot execution style, right? We know that's crazy. Well, guess what? Ben Smith knew that was fucking insane. He immediately dives into the case. And one thing that he finds is there was a pink spiral notebook that had been recovered from Dustin's car. It never got brought up much during the investigation, for good reason. The detectives couldn't really understand why this notebook existed. Inside of the notebook, which had Dustin's handwriting, there was a strange tale. They weren't notes. It wasn't a journal entry. Dustin didn't really have any other journal entries. This was just a random dated story. And it said, quote, "A mysterious fellow had approached him to kill Tracy." I'm going to repeat that one more time. A 20-year-old man who doesn't journal, has no other journals in his possession, had a pink spiral notebook in his car that had a story that was written in his handwriting, but weirdly in the same tone that Tracey speaks. And it's one of the only entries in there. And it says this man commissioned him to kill Tracey Richter. It sounds like a planted piece of evidence, right? But the other thing that's really important is they never told Tracey about this notebook. It was also never mentioned in the media. So this entry was written in Dustin's handwriting, but in a tone that Tracey talks, like referring to somebody as a, quote, strange fellow. And also, it had details about John Pittman that Dustin would not have known about. Remember, he was friends with the second husband, Michael, not the first husband, John Pittman. They knew the handwriting was Dustin's by comparing it to other things, and his mother even confirmed that was his handwriting, but the investigators never believed that this notebook was credible. So when Ben, the new prosecutor, looks into this, his immediate thought is, okay, Tracey made him write this with a gun to his head, execution style, and when he finished writing, she took the book and shot him. That's what Ben suspects, and he intends to prove it. Now Trent and the prosecutor Ben, they have an idea of the direction that they're going, and they reach back out to Tracey for more information. And what is just so insane here is when Tracey wrote back, she used the same exact language that supposedly Dustin did in that note. She referred to somebody as a strange fellow in her email, and then that was also in the notebook. So Trent actually picks up on this and thinks that it's so crazy. So that's already insane. But another thing that was written in this tale was JP's longtime attorney, Stephen Comey, was involved in setting up Tracey's murders and facilitating any murder for hire payments on John Pittman's behalf. This is an insane claim to make. So we're all on the same page that Tracey wrote this, right? She's trying to make poor 20-year-old Dustin the fall guy. And she's making him write all of these things implicating her ex-husband and other people that she doesn't like because she is so crazy that she thinks this is going to work. Dude, drop the IQ another 10 points. Like, this is so dumb. One investigator actually said, would a high-powered attorney from Chicago, like Stephen Comey, look to hire a, quote, special needs kid like Dustin? I'm telling you what his exact quote was in the courtroom. Y'all know I'd be quoting stuff verbatim sometimes. But, I mean, he's trying to make a point here that Dustin was just a kid that had struggles and problems, and in fact, he was very hard to find in this town of 600 people. So not only is this notebook absolutely ridiculous, but a woman named Mary Higgins comes up and says, well, I actually knew about that notebook. And they're like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, well, Tracey told me that it said this and it said this and it said this. And this is just such a red flag for investigators because they never told Tracey about the notebook. Nobody ever told Tracey about the pink notebook. However, Tracey knew about the pink notebook, told Mary about the pink notebook, and told Mary, oh, they're going to find this notebook with all of this crazy stuff in it that he was doing. But Trent and Ben had one big question. Why would she do this? What was the motive? If she meant to intentionally kill Dustin, why? Well, in 2011, they uncovered a potential motive. Now, this one had been there all along, but it kind of helped them make it make sense. They realized that on February 8th in 2001, just 10 months before Dustin's murder, John Pittman had filed for full custody of their child. He documented over 10 years of absolute horror with Tracey, from the physical abuse to the gun to putting the posters all over the hospital. There was a good chance that Tracey was going to lose all custody of her first child, Brent. And what better way to prove that you're fit for the job by proving you'll defend and protect your kids at all costs? This was enough to spin up an arrest warrant. And they found Tracey, now Sophie, in Omaha, Nebraska, running some small businesses and pretending to be a socialite from England. Yes, she had gone full fake English accent with her new fake name and was pretending to be rich and popular and amazing. Girl, how did you think this was gonna last? Like, if any of us could just go to a new city and make up a name and pretend that we're like rich and famous, bitch, we would do that. Like, you are inevitably going to be caught. Somebody that drums up this type of lifestyle is willing to lie and lie and lie and lie and on to the next life, on to the next life. That's what she was going to do. When they found her in Nebraska, she was running one of her businesses. She was cleaning houses, and she had multiple IDs on her with various names, and she kept a little notebook with several cops' names and addresses. How strange is that? In August of 2011, she was finally formally charged with the murder 10 years later at the age of 45. When the trial began, there was no question that Tracey Richter killed Dustin. The trial was to see if it was truly self-defense, if it was justified. The prosecution painted a very clear picture of Tracey Richter being in an intense custody battle, and she couldn't keep a job and nobody had anything nice to say about her, so she needed some type of advantage, a big one. So she had to concoct a story. The prosecution accused Tracey of wanting to frame John so that she could keep from losing her son and avoid losing $1,000 a month in child support payments. They believe and painted a very good picture of Tracey luring Dustin to her home, forcing him to write the note, and then killing him. Then, finally, on November 7th, 2011, a jury convicted Tracey Richter of first-degree murder. Later at the sentencing, she was given life in prison without the possibility of parole. Most people were very happy about the verdict. Michael, her second husband, said, "We pray for the health and welfare of not only my children, but for Dustin's family and Tracey's other victims." And then this guy named Joseph Lapisa, he was actually a dentist that treated Tracey. And then one day she hit him with a lawsuit. She claims that he drugged her and then assaulted her while she was having a service. But he actually came back out later and said, "What the fuck? Tracey actually drugged me and hooked up with me." Like, he was so pissed off about it all because he said Tracey had seduced him. Like, they were doing drugs together and she wanted to hook up. And then later she said, "What the fuck?" I didn't really include that whole story arc in here because I don't fucking believe Tracey Richter, but you know, I will tell you what he said after the trial though, because you know that guy was happy to see her go to jail. He literally said this: "This is excellent. Like I said, it's too bad they don't have a death sentence down there." This guy was jumping for joy because that lawsuit was still pending. And then lastly, Dustin's mother, Mona, she was very happy to finally see the case get justice. Like I told you guys, it took 10 years. Mona's ex-husband passed away. Tracey was up there on TV, doing press interviews, everything. After the trial, Mona said, "We thank everyone for seeing through the lies and hearing the truth. It's what we were all waiting for." In 2012, just a year later, Tracey Richter tried to appeal her conviction. The courts held it up. She's not going anywhere. Now, this part is interesting. In 2014, the authorities actually seized a computer and some hard drives from Tracey's mom's house, Anna Richter. The reason they did this was because after the trial in 2011, it was very strange that all of the state's witnesses and the police force that worked on the case were all getting harassed online in different ways. Ben, in his report, wrote, "The two have been engaging in a systematic and ongoing campaign of cyber/internet harassment and defamation aimed directly at the state's witnesses and retaliation for their cooperation with law enforcement." Anna Richter paid and provided information to a man who made posts on a website called the Ripoff Report that accused the state witnesses of theft, perjury, fraud, computer hacking, child molestation, murder, and terrorism. It's so funny. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Tracey always would try to punish people with lies about their reputation because the most important thing to her was her reputation and her prestige. So that's what she always went after with other people. And Tracey also had a habit of saying things about people that weren't true about them, but they were true about her. And so it's interesting to me that her mother went off on a campaign saying that people were murderers, terrorists, computer hackers, Basically everything they were doing, they just accuse everyone else of doing. John Pittman, the first husband, he had a plastic surgery clinic in Virginia, and they said that he lost over $600,000 after Ripoff Report started publishing falsely that he was a child molester and a drug pusher. Then in 2017, there was a book called Beautifully Cruel, written by somebody named William Phelps. Now, Phelps has written over 40 books, New York Times bestseller, has won an award for excellence in investigative journalism from the Society of Professional Journalists, okay? This person is very accredited. They start to work on a book and they reach out to Anna Richter, Tracy's mom. When Anna Richter speaks to this journalist, she starts accusing him of being hired by Michael, the second husband. Tracy's mom is like, Michael hired you, didn't he? He hired you to write this book in his favor. He doesn't want you to tell the truth about Tracy. The writer actually said that later, the mother started to go on rants, suggesting that he didn't have good sources, he didn't know what he was doing, and she intended to discredit him and his reputation. She also said that he knows nothing, and he better watch out. Like I said, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And the last part of this I'll add that I thought was very strange. Do you remember the beginning of this? I told you that Tracey Richter's dad was a homicide detective. Well, the day after Tracy was convicted of murder, they found her dad lying in a pool of blood in his home. The police said he must have fallen off the stairs.